I wake to an unfamiliar silence. Not the hush of dawn, not the quiet of a village still tangled in sleep, but something deeper, heavier. The air is thick, pressing against my skin, and for a moment I don't move. My breath is steady, but something inside me is restless, unsettled. A dream lingers at the edges of my mind, already fading. Firelight in the distance, a comforting warmth, a voice I didn't recognize. And then, a flicker of light snaps my eyes wide. At first I think it was the last glint of sleep behind my eyelids, but then it comes again, a wavering of light outside my window, shifting and curling, like smoke caught in a breeze. I sit up too fast, heart pounding. The room is still, the walls the same as they were last night, the wooden beams above me unchanged, the faint scent of the evening's embers from the kitchen hearth still lingering in the air. A pull deep behind my ribs draws me to the window. Beyond the village, past the last fences, something glows. Not the warm gold of lanterns, nor the cold shimmer of the morning dew. A line of glinting light, moving like a river made of glowing embers. A shiver runs through me, though the room is warm. This isn't real. It can't be real. The Ember Path is a myth, a tale spoken in low voices, told by wandering travelers to restless children. A path that appears once in a dozen generations, leading only those who dare to follow. Some say it guides the lost to their fate. Others say it leads the foolish to their doom, that those who walk it are never seen again. But it's just a story, isn't it? And yet the light remains, flickering against the dim glow of dawn, winding between the trees. I'm pulling on my boots before I realize I've moved. A deep urgency quickens my hands as I grab a loaf of bread and a few apples, shoving them into a bag. I hesitate, sweeping one last glance around the room. Then I push the door open and step into the morning. The village sleeps as I pass, doors latched, shutters drawn tight. The wind stirs dust along the worn dirt paths, but no other footsteps mark the ground. I am alone. As I near the trees, the embers flicker, without heat, without smoke. I take the first step, then another. The path seems to hum beneath my feet, welcoming. For a time, the path is steady, weaving between the trees with quiet certainty, winding through the morning mist until it begins to fade as the day warms. The embers seem alive beneath my boots, their steady rhythm a heartbeat pulsing in time with mine. I take comfort in it, certain that the path is guiding me as much as I am following it. Then the embers split at a fork in the path. To the left, the path dips downward, disappearing into the mist of the winding hollow. Even on the clearest days, the hollow remains shrouded, its paths swallowed by shifting fog. The trees here grow close, their branches tangled overhead, casting the ground below into a twilight that never fully fades. The air is thick, damp with a scent of earth and moss, muffling sound like a heavy woolen cloak. No one walks the hollow unless they must. The mist plays tricks. It hides uneven ground, twists familiar trails into unfamiliar turns. Hunters have spoken of losing their way, of the silence stretching too long between heartbeats, and of things just beyond sight. Shapes that move when you're not looking, keeping pace but never stepping forward. It's a place best avoided, and yet the embers flicker toward it, winding into the mist. To the right, the path rises, climbing toward the cliffs, toward the shattered watch. The tower has stood for longer than anyone remembers, longer than the village. No story tells of its builders, nor its purpose. It is simply there, as it always has been, a hollow remnant of something lost to time. What remains leans crooked against the hillside, its highest stones scattered like broken teeth across the ground. The lower walls still hold, their surface cracked, wrapped in ivy, carved deep with strange markings. Too precise to be idle decoration, too deliberate to be mere weathering. Runic symbols, their meaning long forgotten. Children are warned not to touch the stones, for fear of waking something best left undisturbed. The wind howls between the broken walls, low and ceaseless, like the breath of the ruin itself. No one lingers at the watch. And yet, the embers twist up the rocky slope. I stare at the fork in the path, my breath shallow. The embers do not hesitate. They spill forward both ways, splitting as if the path itself is undecided. But how can that be? I stand motionless as the seconds stretch by. I follow the glow as it winds toward the hollow, swallowed by mist, then as it coils up the slope in the direction of the watch. 2 paths, 2 directions, but only one Ember Path. This is a test, a choice laid before me, waiting to see what I will do. The hollow whispers of caution, of treacherous steps and unseen dangers. But the watch holds secrets. It has stood against time itself, keeping whatever knowledge was once etched into its walls, knowledge no one alive remembers. And I want to understand. I shift my weight, stepping toward the slope. The embers shimmer at my feet as if pleased by my choice. The past waits ahead. Perhaps I will uncover it. The path climbs steadily, winding up the craggy slope. The sun arcs higher, stretching my shadow long against the rocks. By the time I reach the ridge, the day is already slipping toward dusk. Ahead, the ground drops away into a deep ravine, carved by time and weather. The path continues on the other side, but between here and there stands the only way across, a bridge. Or at least what remains of one. The wooden planks are warped and splintered, some missing entirely. Ropes hang loose where they should be taut. Even the embers hesitate as they reach its edge, their glow flickering uncertainly, as though testing the air before continuing forward. I exhale, steadying myself. There's no time to search for another way. If I want to reach the watch before nightfall, I have to cross. I step forward. The wood groans beneath my boots. Another step. The wind stirs, setting the ropes to swaying. Another. Then, the snap of wood, the sudden lurch of empty air. The world tilts violently as the bridge gives way beneath me. I reach, scrambling, my fingers digging into the jagged roots along the ravine's wall. My body slams against the rock, knocking the breath from my lungs, but I hold. For a moment, all I hear is the pounding of my pulse, the distant crash of wood splintering below. Then, slowly, I begin to slide. The roots snap, one by one. The earth slips past in a blur until the ground rises to meet me. I hit hard, rolling with the impact, breath ragged, pain flaring through my side. But I am whole. Bruised, shaken, but whole. I push myself upright, assessing my body before my surroundings. Above, the ravine walls loom, steep and jagged. The watch waits on the other side, but I am no longer following the path I set out on. And then, a flicker of gold catches my eye. The Ember Path. It runs along the ravine floor, glowing just ahead, winding between moss-covered stones. I exhale, a breathless laugh, half disbelief, half realization. The path has changed. It isn't leading me back up, it's leading me forward. Shadows stretch across the ground as I continue to follow the Ember Path, weaving between the rocks and roots on the ravine floor. The sky deepens as the last of day fades. Ahead, just off the path, there's a break in the trees. I catch the faint scent of smoke clinging to the air. In a small clearing, the remains of a campfire still smolders. I slow, gaze sweeping across the abandoned campsite. The fire was stamped out, the ground around it scuffed where someone quickly smothered the flames. Someone was here. Someone who might still be close. I glance down the path, my eyes following the embers twisting ahead into the dark. Another traveler ahead of me. How far? A minute's lead? An hour's? My pulse quickens. Is this a race? I could press on, try to catch up. But chasing shadows in the dark is a fool's errand, and perhaps something useful was left behind. Whoever was here left in a hurry, but they had been ready to make camp. I take a few more steps toward the fire before a shape moves at the tree line. I freeze. A figure stands in the shadows at the edge of the clearing, wrapped in a worn cloak, their hood pulled low. For a moment, neither of us moves. My hand inches toward the small dagger on my belt, instinct tightening my fingers. But the stranger does not reach for his own weapon. We stand at the edge of the clearing, two silhouettes caught in the flickering light of the Ember Path. The silence stretches. Finally, the stranger moves, not toward me, not away, just a shift in weight, a slow, deliberate motion. He lowers his hood to reveal the hard lines of his face, shadowed in firelight. You walked the path today. His voice is even, unreadable. Not a question, not a challenge, just an observation. I hesitate, but nod. And you? He exhales through his nose, something like a quiet laugh. We are likely not the only ones. His gaze flicks briefly to the smoldering campfire between us, then back to me. Stay the night. Not a demand, an invitation. I study him, searching for intent. There is no aggression in his stance, no edge of hostility to his voice, only the same guarded wariness I myself feel. My hand relaxes away from my dagger. I have food, I say, a test of sorts. The stranger's posture eases. So do I. From beneath his cloak, he produces a rabbit, freshly caught. A fair trade. Without another word, he kneels beside the fire, coaxing it back to life. The tension lingers, but something shifts. Neither of us speaks, but the quiet between us no longer feels like a threat. As the moon rises, the scent of roasting meat fills the clearing. The firelight flickers between us, softening the edges of uncertainty. I watch the stranger, trying to interpret his expression. He looks up at me, considering for a moment, then speaks. The path is long, and the road ahead could be perilous. We don't have to walk it alone. He waits for my answer. I study his face, then follow the steady movements of his hands as he adjusts the meat roasting over the fire. A thought settles over me, slow and certain. There is danger in walking alone, but there is also danger in trusting the wrong person. The risk is the same, except one choice offers the chance to share the burdens of the journey, and perhaps the rewards. The fire crackles between us. The embers shift, glowing against the dark. I nod once and say, "Tomorrow we walk the path together." At first light, we walk. The Ember Path winds through the ravine, guiding us forward with flickering light. The air is damp, the scent of moss and stone thick around us. For a time, the way is clear, but then the embers falter. Ahead, in a clearing at the base of the cliff, the path simply stops. I frown, scanning the trees, searching for the telltale flicker of embers winding between the trunks. But there is only darkness, only silence, only the ember smoldering at the center of the clearing, pulsing softly in the morning dim. A single glowing coal resting in the dirt, its light steady, controlled. Smoke rises from it in twisting tendrils, curling and vanishing into the air. Beside me, my companion watches, expression unreadable. "The path led us here," he says. I exhale slowly. Then maybe it's asking for something. I kneel beside the ember, feeling its warmth against my skin. I cup my hand around it and blow carefully on the burning coal. The glow pulses faster. A test. I glance at my companion. He nods once. Together we lean in. Another slow, careful breath, and the ember flares. I inhale, then exhale again, this time with intent. The glow surges, the pulse quickening, flickering brighter. My companion does the same, coaxing it higher. The ember breathes. The clearing glows gold as the ember ignites, a flame leaping from its core, twisting upward in a spiral of light. Then, a flash of brilliance forces us both back, arms raised against the sudden explosion of sparks. The ember launches forward, streaking toward the cliff wall, a comet blazing through the air. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then light erupts from the rock. It builds upward, flickering, stretching, forging something new. The embers expand, layering like molten veins, carving into the cliffside, forming a staircase, glowing, sturdy, impossibly smooth. We stare. I take a breath, step forward, and press my foot against the first step. Solid. Warm beneath my boots, but real. I glance at my companion. He exhales through his nose, something like amusement. "The path provides." I nod. Let's not waste it. Together, we climb. At the top, as we step onto solid ground, the embers fade behind us, vanishing into the stone as if they were never there. But before us, bathed in the light of the morning, stand the ruins of the Shattered Watch.